Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Lucore Automotive. Clearly today, we're once again no longer at Lucore. We are at CIA Performance, where we do our dyno tuning. And today's gonna be an exciting day. As you see coming in behind me, the 1979 AMC Spirit AMX, 304 4-speed car, now actually functioning on all 4 barrels of a 4-barrel carburetor. It's time to see what this thing does. When we ran it last time before, it was only running on 2 of the 4 barrels. We've swapped out carburetors. We are now on a mechanical carburetor. So we shouldn't have any more problems. I'm excited. I'm hopeful. Stay tuned. Here we go. She's a looker, Clark. So quick little update on this car. For those of you who already know what this car is, too bad. For those of you who don't and you're just discovering this car, here we go. 1979 AMC Spirit AMX. It is a factory 304, factory 4-speed car. They only made about 800 of these in 1979, so they're pretty rare little birds. Now, just because they're rare does not mean they're valuable. But this thing, when it was brand new, made about 120 horsepower through 2 barrels on a 304. Which is really, really pitiful. So I had dug this car out of a gentleman's yard in Southern Ohio a couple of years back, and since then we have replaced essentially everything other than the body. So wheels, tires, brakes, suspension, steering, engine's been rebuilt, brand new clutch, flywheel, all that stuff, everything's been replaced. So at that point in time, we brought it over here to see exactly what it made, and we did a pretty good job on the dyno, but we realized when we were on the dyno that we were not actually opening the vacuum operated secondaries. Due to a number of things, mainly because the car is a manual and it's very lightweight, it's not getting enough signal, so it's not opening up the vacuum secondary. So throw away the vacuum secondary carburetor. We now have a Brawler 650 CFM mechanical secondary carburetor on this car. The idea is going to be, it should be in reasonably decent shape. It does run really well. If you happen to have seen the video on Old Man's Garage, Kenny took this thing through its paces, and it does run very nice, especially compared to what it did before. I'll give you an idea as far as what it did the last time we had here. We input some video here from the last time we were here. Now, it ran actually really well when we had it here, to be honest with you. And the funny thing is, when we ran it before, when we got it here, it actually ran pretty well. And it only made like 110 or 115 horsepower when we got it here. Finagling around, we got it considerably better. And it actually ran really, really well, even just on those primaries. And it did pick up a considerable amount of power when you factor the fact that this thing made 120 at the crank. So probably less than 100 at the tires from factory. So yeah, that's the story. Eric's doing all the hard work, as always, strapping us down. And we're going to get this thing a pull and see where we are, and then see if we can do some finagling. My happy point today is going to be 175 horsepower. If we see 175 horsepower at the tires, I am going to be stoked. If we don't, we're going to probably cheat and use some race gas and get it there. So anyway, time to get this thing warmed up, make some pulls. For those of you who have seen this and been curious about it, the valve covers I actually had done by our exceptionally talented airbrush artist, Jonathan Kinney of Columbus Airbrush. He does helmets and valve covers and all kinds of other stuff for us. He's done the doors on the shop, he's done the doors on the shop truck, lots of different things. So those of you who are interested and who are curious about those valve covers, those were done by Jonathan Kinney. It's kind of his business, that's what he does. So if you are interested, you can find him on the interwebs, Columbus Airbrush, Jonathan Kinney. Here's the other side. Some We the People action there. So since this thing has been last on camera at Bill's place, he did the carburetor tuning for us, and then they hooned it for a little bit and then dropped it off at the shop. I have touched absolutely nothing. This is literally the very first time I've driven it since you saw it driving when they dropped it off. I put fresh 93 octane gas in it. Otherwise, we have not touched a thing since it was done. Now, there is a very good possibility we may need to change jets. We never did touch the rears on the original carburetor, so we're not sure where that's going to be. But nothing else has been changed. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to go step by step and prove the difference of different parts, what things can get what. So this does still have the factory original exhaust on it. It still has the factory exhaust manifolds, still has the factory wide pipe, still has the factory center pipe. So it is definitely choked down on the exhaust side. It is a rebuilt 304. It's got 30 over pistons on it. It's got 9-to-1 compression. It's got a 4-barrel Edelbrock intake manifold, and now it's got a Brawler carburetor on it. But otherwise, essentially, it's basically as a normal person we would rebuild it. This is not a high budget, high dollar build. So anyway, I'm saying all that to say this: we're going to see what we can get out of this thing now, and then there's going to be more upgrades because that's how it always goes. Headers next, and then we'll retest. Anybody who's seen one of our dyno videos, we always point out the fact that dynos are not necessarily just for great dyno numbers and great dyno footage. They're also a fantastic diagnostic tool. And one of the key parts of that is this little thing you see right here. Sticking in my tailpipe. That's allowing him to pull air-fuel ratios so we can actually see whether or not it's running rich or lean, where it's running rich and lean, and adjust accordingly. Typically speaking, if you're just doing this in your garage and you're tuning it on the street or whatever, you're reading plugs, you're smelling the tailpipe, you're doing what you can, but it's not nearly as precise as the data that we can get after with that smeller in the back of the tailpipe. So we can actually get our data and see where this thing actually is running and what we can do to adjust it to make more power. Here we go. Doing better. Whoa, what was that? I'm surprised. It doesn't run terrible. Now, as I was talking about with the sniffer, this is our AFR line. So this dotted line is essentially our target, which is like what, 12.7, somewhere in that range. And then this is our progress across RPM. So it gives you the ability to see where it does. Now at the very, very top at 5,500 RPMs, we're actually right where we want to be. But all through the rest of this band, we are a bit rich. Which, rich is safe, but rich is not power. 169 horsepower and some change. There's some power to be found, definitely on the low end and mid-range. Now the only adjustments that were made physically in this carburetor from the day I bought it is I did change out the primary jets from 70s to 72s because the other Jegs carburetor with the vacuum secondaries, we had run 72s as the primary. So it looks like the reason this is probably running fat on the low end is because I changed out the jets. So we're gonna do some partial throttle driving to see what we can figure out where, you know, driving mechanics wise and drivability wise, and then it's gonna be a time to make some adjustments. So we'll see. Again, this is exactly why you do this. You can figure out some things on test drives. You can't do this. So I don't know if you guys could see the bar that was bouncing around in the background, but that was reading the AFRs at partial throttle and just kind of cruising speeds. If you go back and watch the video, you'll be able to see this little bar jumping around in the back of the screen, and it's way down here in the 10.5 to 11 range. So, which means it's running considerably rich at partial throttle, which we need to fix that, because otherwise we're also going to foul out plugs and we're going to be burning up fuel, and it's going to run like crap. And yeah, so fix that first. Based on what we're seeing, we're gonna go from the 72s in the front to 68s in the front, because it was running real rich when it's running down the road. So hopefully speaking, we don't have to go to the rears. I don't honestly even have any idea what the jets in the rears are. As far as I could find, none of the documentation on Brawler's website or that came with it showed me what the rear jets are. So we're gonna hope that that's not the case, but definitely when it was running around on the primaries, it was running way too rich. So hopefully a little jet change and we're back in business. Well, we have made even more jet changes, taken more out of the primaries. We'll see where she does. Also discovered, may have a little bit of a wiring issue on my electric choke. Always gotta be something. Data. Aren't you having fun, Eric?
Always.
Isn't this fun? He's not having a lot of fun. But that's okay, because this is his job, and this is what he does. And this is exactly why we come over here, because Eric and I can stand around and talk to each other and figure out, why is this thing doing what it's doing? So, huge shout out to Andrew, a technical advisor from Performance Research, Inc., who said, you know what, just throw some crazy low jets at that primary and see if you can get that thing to come back down where it's supposed to be. So we changed out the jets. We initially started from 72s in the primaries down to 70s.
68.
We're now down to 68s?
68.
Okay, down from 72 to 68.
Now we're 65.
And then we went from 68 down to 65. So now we're on 65 primaries, and it is pulling that AFR considerably up better where we are, where we want to be.
And especially during cruise.
Yeah, it's drivability wise, we're getting it back where it wants to be, and we're getting back to where we want to be. We're not going to probably get this perfect. Unfortunately, that's part of carbureted setups, is getting them really dialed in perfectly is really, really tough. But drivability wise, it's really improved. We've gotten points where we are a little rich, but not necessarily that bad. But as we get down here in the higher RPMs, we're actually leaning out. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to swap over and by we I mean Eric, swap out the secondary jets and go a little bit bigger on the secondaries, so that we're not running out of fuel on the top end. And then we'll probably make a couple of adjustments to the idle setup, and then yeah, make one more pull and see where we are. We're within a hair's breadth of 175. I don't know if we're going to get there or not. We'll see. But there's going to be some honest conversation we can have after this as well. But yeah, this is a dyno day, man. This is how it really goes. It's not just those quick little videos. Also, totally should have just bought a Holly Sniper. So for anybody who's curious, Brawler doesn't list this on their website, but the factory jets are 70s in the front and 74s in the rear. So we're going to go up just a wee bit in the rear and see if it gets our fuel back to where we need to be in the back. That's why you have this little Holly jet kit. There we go, no more playing on the dyno. Before we get to our final numbers, let me give you a quick little thing. Total timing, 36 degrees. So we didn't really mess with that. That's basically where it was before. I think Bill dialed in like 1 or 2 extra degrees when he was playing with it before, but makes no real difference at this point in time. Runs great. Everything's good. Secondaries are functioning as they should. So we did pick up power, obviously over running a 2-barrel. But everything we screwed around with today really didn't make much of a difference as far as the actual power number goes. But it does get us a cleaner run. If you're looking at the curve down here, and I'll lay it up over the screen so you're not watching me here, but we did get that lower end super rich situation figured out, and that's gotten considerably better. It does get a little bit lean on the very, very, very top end when we get to like 5,500 RPMs, but I'm not really ever going to be up there, and it's not that lean. I mean, we're talking like...
Yeah, it's not detrimental.
Right. So, but the good news is, and you and I have this conversation every single time, is this is a diagnostic tool to be able to figure out where our next steps are.
Yep.
And I think we are smack up against exhaust.
Correct.
There's nothing else we can do to squeeze anything else through that little tiny pipe.
Nope, not at all.
So that's where we're going to go next. This does have, as I said, the factory Y pipe on it. So it is a, I believe, 1 5/8" pipe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a tiny little original 1979 Y pipe and factory exhaust manifolds. So it's going to be next, we're going to do long tubes, and then probably a true dual with an X pipe, and then we'll come back.
Because rejet everything.
Because everything we just did, we're gonna have to redo all that stuff. But
that's all right. It's part of the game.
Yeah,
part of it.
That's hot rodding. So it is what it is. For those of you who are curious, yeah, Bill did a good job. He basically had it spot on where it needed to be power wise. We were able to iron out a few little things that would be really hard to do when it's not on a dyno, versus just seat of the pants driving. So, but otherwise, Bill did a damn good job. And all the jetting we did up and down and all over the place, cleaned it up, but it didn't make any more power.
Correct. Yep.
Because we're just up against that wall.
At least maybe now you'll get 5 miles a gallon instead of
Yes.
3.
Yeah. Yeah. I get more fuel economy in my muscle car. Muscle car.
Right.
Whatever. Anyway, Eric, as always, thank you very much, sir. I very much appreciate it. The guys here at CIA Performance always help us out on all of our tuning stuff. If you guys are in the central Ohio area and you need any tuning done, if you look behind me, they do a lot of things other than crappy little AMXs. Fuel injection cars, carbureted cars, supercharged cars, turbocharged cars, nitrous cars, you name it, they do it. So this is the place to bring it because this is where we come and we trust these guys. Eric and I have known each other for years. He shoots straight with everybody. He won't pull punches. He'll tell you how it really is. So yeah, that's it. There we are. Now I got to find some headers for this thing and then we'll build some exhaust and then we'll come back. So the AMC saga Part 1 is certainly not over yet. Thanks for being here. Subscribe if you haven't already. Drop me a comment in the comment section below. Click on the like button if you haven't already. You made it this far. Gonna go make some more AMC noises and hopefully not freeze my tail off because it's a cold, windy, crappy, rainy Ohio day here. Ugh, spring, hurry up. See you on the next one. Take care.